Watch with Alex Swoyer, and I'm excited to bring you the latest episode of my podcast where I am joined by Jim Campbell, Chief Legal Counsel at Alliance Defending Freedom. He will be arguing a case on April 30th on behalf of the Oklahoma Statewide Charter School Board, which is looking to contract with St. Isidore of Seville Virtual Charter School to become the nation's first religious charter school. The case, Oklahoma Statewide Charter School Board versus Drummond, involves Oklahoma's Attorney General, who moved to cancel the charter for the religious school, saying the state can exclude religious institutions. The issue has split Republicans in the state, as the governor of Oklahoma has shown support for the religious Catholic school. The Oklahoma Supreme Court, though, sided against the board and the Catholic school, prompting the appeal to the justices. Thanks, Jim, for taking time to join me and talk about your case. My first question is really, what is at stake in this case in regards to the ability of other states like Oklahoma that could potentially start utilizing religious schools like Catholic schools and part of the as a charter school for parents and I guess like public choice options?
So fundamentally, what's at stake is whether parents should have more or less options when it comes to school choice. And our view is that when the government creates a program like the charter school program in Oklahoma, and it opens it up for all private groups to apply, it can't simply single out religious groups and say, everyone except you. And so what's at stake is really, are religious groups going to be treated equally in public programs, and are parents going to have more opportunities when choosing school choice for their kids?
And could this case, should Oklahoma, the school board, win, become a roadmap, really, for other states to follow?
It certainly could impact what other states do with their charter school programs. And so this case could have the impact of opening up charter school programs for other religious organizations to participate.
And then I wanted to ask you, the Oklahoma Supreme Court, what were some flaws in that opinion that you think will be of particular interest to the Supreme Court?
So the Oklahoma Supreme Court essentially declared that a private entity is the government itself. It was quite an astounding decision in that they looked at this organization named St. Isidore. It was created by a private group of actors. It has its own private board. And the Oklahoma Supreme Court said that that was, in fact, a part of the government. And that's just simply wrong. There is nothing about St. Isidore, which is a privately created, privately operated entity, that converts it into an arm of the government. So we're hopeful and confident that the Supreme Court will see that as a problem, and that it will recognize that St. Isidore is a private religious organization that has every right to participate in the charter school program, just like secular organizations do.
And I guess just for some of our listeners and readers, what are some advantages of including like a Catholic school, St. Isidore, or other religious schooling in as part of a charter choice? What are some advantages that you've seen or your client has shared with you?
Yeah, so the Catholic education in general has an absolutely phenomenal pedigree. And so there is just a lot of success for students that go through Catholic education. And so then to open up that opportunity to kids who couldn't otherwise afford it, that can really be a game changer for lots of families in states like Oklahoma's and others that might follow the same model. And so we think that there are a lot of parents out there that want more options for their kids. And we know it because we hear it when we talk to them. And what they want, some of them want their kids educated consistently with their beliefs, their religious beliefs. And right now, they don't have that option. But if religious organizations are allowed to participate on equal footing in these charter programs, then parents who want to choose religious education for their kids, even if they can't afford it, they will now have that opportunity available to them.
So this case is pretty interesting just because I know it split Republicans in the state of Oklahoma. I think there was support from the governor. The attorney general, of course, is the one that's challenged this. I guess my question is, do we know where is the United States, is the Department of Justice going to take part in this case? Are they going to choose a side to argue on? Where is that right now?
Yeah, the United States decided to weigh in on behalf of the religious charter school and the board that approved that charter school. So the United States has said that They agree with us. They agree that kids deserve more options and families deserve more options when it comes to education. And we're very excited that they have supported us in this case. And we're hopeful that that will help convince the U.S. Supreme Court that it should allow religious groups to participate in these charter school programs no less than secular groups.
Right. And I think you're the expert here, but I have followed the court since 2017. And there's been a few cases, I think maybe ADF cases, that related to this same argument about religious institutions not being excluded basically from public benefit. And I was going to ask you, are those some of the precedents that that you see on point here with this particular issue? I think, for example, one of them was, correct me if I'm wrong, but something like it was like rubber tires that were used to then help like repave playgrounds, and it was churches that needed to repave their playgrounds, but they were excluded. Does this sound familiar? Am I kind of on point? Law School 101?
You are 100% on point. So that case was decided by the Supreme Court in 2017. It's Trinity Lutheran is the name of the case. The state of Missouri created a program. The program was playground resurfacing materials, and it was open to everyone except if you were affiliated with a religious organization. And the Supreme Court said you can't do that. If you create one of these public programs and you open it up for everyone, you can't single out the religious groups and say no. A few years later, the Supreme Court took that same principle and applied it to a school tax credit in the state of Montana. And then a few years after that, most recently in 2022, the Supreme Court extended that principle to a tuition assistance program in the state of Maine. So all three of those cases apply to this Oklahoma case that we're dealing with, and establishes the principle that when you create one of these programs, including financial aid for students to attend school, you can exclude religious groups. And we believe that the Supreme Court will affirm that principle here and will allow religious organizations to participate in Oklahoma's charter program.
Yeah. It does certainly sound like recent precedent, that is on your side. One of the last questions I always like to ask is, what question have I not asked you that I should have? Or is there anything about your case that you see out there in the news that you think is a misconception that you wanted to take time to clear up?
One of the most important things for people to realize is that school choice is a very, very good thing for parents and families. One of the things we talk about in our case in the brief that we file with the Supreme Court is that kids that are in charter schools are doing very well. Specifically, kids in Oklahoma, the kids that are attending charter schools are outperforming their peers that are in traditional public schools. And so we need to provide these kids with more options. We need to make their futures brighter, and we can do that by providing them with greater options and greater choices, and allowing religious groups to be a part of these charter school programs will do just that.
And I believe that your argument date is April 30th, correct? So are we thinking this is going to be one of those like last opinions at the end of June that'll be released? Is that are we on the same page there?
We're on the same page. This case, it will actually be decided, argued on April 30th, as you said, which is the last argument of the term. So it's likely that it will also be one of the last cases decided of the term.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I will be following it closely, and I really appreciate you taking time to break everything down for us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
To read more about this case, you can go to WashingtonTimes.com. If you have not subscribed yet to this podcast, please do so. And also feel free to email me interesting questions or topics you want explored about the legal reporting world. My email is aswoyer@WashingtonTimes.com. I'll do my best to answer them during each episode. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to hearing from you all soon. Listen to my podcast, Court Watch, at WashingtonTimes.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.